another one.
This come back. Where'd you go? All right. What are the most common vulnerabilities you find that could have been avoided if the devs had basic cybersecurity knowledge? Let me see if there's more to it, and let me see if there's
Oof.
more to it. Yes. So this one was well. That's pretty much the question. It was focused to penetration testers, to pen testers. But yeah, that's the question. What are the most common vulnerabilities that you find that could have been avoided if devs had basic cybersecurity knowledge? Kind of goes along to what Don was saying about defensive coding. So let's have at it. What do you got, Socks? And then we'll go to Don after.
Man, I'll try and keep it short, but this is a pretty complex thing.
I thought all
I'll
the
try
previous
and
ones you
go.
tried to keep so short.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, this one's gonna be long. Yeah, this is gonna be long. Okay. Um. So like just off the top of my head, we got SQL injection for sure. And that occurs when a user or a malicious user uses SQL command statements through the web application's input field. So that's your username, your password, where people are using like the one equals one or bang equals one, yada yada yada. Uh, this quite often happens like when we're talking about um, just really base level things that can be put into place to prevent um, the egress or the ingress of data and the ingress of Abu Bad guy. These are the things that we got to worry about. Cross site scripting, right? So these are just real simple things, right? It's when I guess the application allows the inclusion of untrusted data within the web page without proper validation and escaping, right? So that'll allow people to kind of execute scripts from the browser. So if I want to find out what your Etsy shadow looks like, because the server is a, I don't know, Ubuntu or a Apache server, right? These are some of the things that can be used. Cross site forgery is another one, and notice like I keep talking about like things that definitely interrupt the way that databases are being used across or form data is being used within websites, because we interface with websites a lot in today's day and age. And then indirect object references is something that pops up pretty quickly. But we'll make that, I guess, number four. But then we got, our security misconfiguration. So that's when people don't enable the proper security things, such as using just HTTP versus HTTPS, and having HTTP exposed to the World Wide Web without additional security things in place. Now, I mean, like when a lot of people say, okay, well, Nico, we always read about security, SQL injection and cross-site scripting, and we always hear about that. And that's not really something that's going to happen in the real world. Well, I believe back in 2005, there's something called Talk, right? That got hit through the utilization of, or that was a victim of SQL injection, right? Then we have, things like British Airways back in 2000. What was it, 2018, right? We're in 2024. In 2018, British Airways, a website got hit where attackers were able to steal personal data, or I think it was like 380 transactions or something like that. And then in 2008, Gmail was hit with the cross-site request forgery, right? Just to name a few. And then when we talk about IDOR or or indirect object referencing, um, our beloved Facebook was attacked by that back in 2013, to include Mark Zuckerberg's. I think his picture got like exposed or something like that. Like some private data from him got exposed. So, and then the Equifax breach, being the product of security misconfiguration that ultimately continues to be the gift that keeps on giving, and that was a Apache Struts vulnerability, something that we practice on red team all the time, right? So um we, these things, I think at the lower level and more simple level, I don't think that it's a nefarious thing, but it's a thing that um if we're not vigilant on our security practices and really working hand in hand with security in mind, and even like if you have an internal security team, like use them, like have the conversation, like yes, but I know we're sprints, we got sprints going on and we got to deliver, and this is going to hold up our deliverables. um there's some things that regression testing is not going to show you. There are things that your built-in pipeline, to go back to Don's mention of the CI/CD pipeline, and its place within just code development and having secure code. It's not going to function as well as it needs to if we're not vigilant about security. And that's all I got. That's my TED Talk.
I, I'd like to add some of the top common vulnerabilities I see, um, at least from the API layer that I noticed. Um, what's pretty common is default settings and paths to Swagger documentation. When you're doing early research on the API, you know, you want to know how to use it. And Swagger, unfortunately, tells you how to use it very well. And I see a pattern of that being exposed by default. So one of the first things the attacker will do is try to fuzz for those paths, get the information. Now they know how to fully interact with your infrastructure. And then from
Mhm.
there, it's, what would be a good practice is to maybe, once it hits production, to not allow those paths or remove those paths, right?
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and that can be part of CI/CD. Once you have a release branch, that code gets removed, right? That will avoid a lot of different attack types, because API is really where you can get everything, get all the business logic, all the data, it's so, and misconfiguration all the time, especially with these new cloud Kubernetes. And, if they have defaults, that's, one thing a security expert has is a list of all defaults for every product ever invented. And programmatically, you can, you know, identify the device and then throw those credentials at it, and you have control over that resource, which is no bueno.
Mhm.
Sorry.
No, they're perfect. I got you loud and clear, and I couldn't agree with you more. Let's not, shrink wrap attacks are real. If I can just go on Google and look up what Apache servers login credentials are by default, pipe that through something like Shodan, find all the open listening services that utilize Apache, and if I'm able to, I got a little bit of Python underneath my belt, I can write something that just puts an admin password into those things, and just iterates across different things, and hopefully spam house or somebody will receive my IP address and at least block me. But with the targeted attack, with the ability to consistently leverage different IP schemas, that can be something that can attack at scale. Just a thought process, but yeah, I agree.
I had did a video back in September about the E- Equifax data breach, which I believe that was the one where they didn't update something on their servers for a certain amount of
Mm-hmm.
time,
Yep.
and hackers are able to get in. So I mean, like we constantly hear about hackers getting into different companies, like huge companies, on a daily basis. So for people to say, "Oh, this doesn't happen and that doesn't happen," well, if you don't protect yourself against it, then it is going to happen, right? I remember back in like 2006, 7, 8 ish, when Joomla, the CMS Joomla was popular.
Joomla.
And
Yeah.
then even like with even WordPress as well, because like WordPress, they've made it a lot better over the years, right? But like I used to get like the little crappy sites that I used to have up there, like they would get hacked all the time
Mm-hmm.
with like database injections, and then I'd go to the site and say, "Oh, you've been hacked," and I have to like go and clean it up and stuff like that, right? But it's always been happening, you know, so you need to
And
protect your systems against that.
and we also got to talk. I mean, this conversation isn't complete if we're not talking about from the system administrative side and the patching that's necessary. Like patchy, WordPress. I gotta stand up for my friend WordPress, right? So everybody says you get WordPress, you're gonna get hacked all the time. And the reality is situation is as long as you patch base WordPress, you're good. It's the plugins that tend to get you hammered up. And so I'm very, very particular about the implementation about plugins because I'll have a nice, solid, safe environment. And then when I introduce a plugin, then I'm introducing the probability for people to get in through a way that I had not planned for. So I think change management plays a large part in that as well. Documentation and it slows everything down. I get it. Like in a great world, we're doing this, and I think a lot of the time when we choose to skip the 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 very important things for speed or agility, we end up in a bad position. So, guys, just patch your systems, and if you can, like rotate your passwords, and don't use passwords. Use phrases. Open up your remember your favorite book, right? Everybody got a favorite book. You can remember a couple sentences because it's your favorite book. You can remember a couple sentences. So start implementing those things into play. Like we shouldn't be using passwords now. We should be into passphrases.
Yeah, my password is I love tech coach Ralph. Like, share, and subscribe right away. That's my password is. Kind of long, but it
I,
works.
I got it. I got it.
And just to add, like what you were saying about like the sprints and stuff like that, um, it should be part of the stories, right? And part of the pointing and what you bring into the sprint. So, cybersecurity, QA, automation, testing should all be part of the story, and the definition of done should be including that our system is secure, right? And you might think you're gonna go quote unquote slower, but imagine how slow you're gonna go when everything comes crashing down. So,
God. Yeah. Yeah.
all right. So we are going to get to our last question, but let me wrap this one up.
If you enjoyed the fascinating information shared in this video and you want more, be sure to hit the subscribe button to Tech Coach Ralph to be notified for new videos.